Welcome back to Woolshift Beacon. It's time to break down episodes 4 through 6 of Season 2 of Beacon 23, this space psychology sci-fi where every episode is a bottle episode. I'm your host, Elysia, and I'm joined as always by Luke the Learned. How goes academic life, Luke?
Oh, academic life, it goes, Elysia. It goes and it goes and it just keeps
going.
Yeah.
Well, I hope we can give a nice, fun distraction pondering these last 3 episodes of Beacon 23. We're going to be giving full spoilers for Beacon 23 through the 3 episodes we're talking about today. I have read the book that this show is inspired by, Luke's book Innocent, as we do on this podcast, but actually I don't think I'm going to bring up the book at all this time, other than the mention of a trolley problem, which I've said is a big theme in the book, though not by that name. This batch of episodes has otherwise basically no overlap with the source, so just know there's a book. You can read it. It's good. But Luke, I think you like me not having any way to use my book knowledge to predict the show,
Yeah,
don't you?
I like being on a level playing field with you. It's an interesting experience. And I've got to say, I agree with you on all 3 of these episodes being bottle episodes. They are remarkably self-contained.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the show, if you think about it, it kind of really is like that's the nature of the show. They're always in Beacon 23 or now last season I said I wanted to see other beacons. This season we are seeing a couple other beacons.
Yeah, we've seen at least 2 so far.
Yeah, exactly. Well, as usual, today we're going to talk through these 3 episodes one at a time and then check in with the community to see how all of you are feeling about this middle meat of the second season sandwich. Let's start with our hot takes on episodes 4 through 6 of season 2. Luke, what do you think of these episodes overall?
I am really torn about these episodes.
Okay.
Because individually I like them. And I feel like I'm learning a lot about the world and there's a lot of world building. And I'm feeling like I know more about the characters. And yeah, there's a lot of sort of development sideways, but not a lot of forward momentum. Like, if you could assure me, Elysia, now that we're going to get season 3 of Beacon 23 and season 4 of Beacon 23, I would really like these episodes. But I don't feel like the main plot in terms of what's the artifact, what's Haylen's relationship to the artifact,
right?
What does Aleph want with the artifact? I don't feel like any of these questions are sort of move forward. And like, if I knew there was going to be another season after this, that wouldn't bother me so much. But I have a horrible feeling that like the last 2 episodes might feel kind of rushed because we seem to be making a lot of progress outwards and sideways, but not much forward progress.
Yeah. I understand that. Yeah, we're building out sideways when we might not have the time to do that. And for me also, these episodes were a sort of a mixed bag. There were elements of each that I really liked and elements of each that I was a bit unsure of. I do see that there's a lot of overlapping ideas and themes that I think it's possible to bring this stuff together in 2 episodes. So I'm withholding my judgment on the season as a whole until I see how it ends. By the way, on that note, it's Glenn Mazzara. He gave an interview to Screen Rant, and just quoting him word for word here, he said, as of now, Glenn Mazzara, by the way, is one of the co-showrunners of this season. And he said, as of now, season 3 has not been picked up, but I do have a plan for it. I'm talking to the studio. I'm talking to MGM Plus. The ending of season 2 is designed to be satisfying because I never take anything for granted. If we end with season 2, I hope it's a satisfying story, but there's also a trail leading forward to season 3 and more. I do have an idea in mind that I'm very excited about, something I haven't seen before that builds on what we have and would be a lot of fun. Shooting 2 seasons back to back is tough, though. People don't really do that anymore. So I think we've learned where the show is, what fans are excited about, and what excites us as creators. Now I'm taking all of that energy and putting it into season 3. So I hope we get the opportunity to tell that story. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see season 3 because, like, I think there's a lot. I think there's more than enough story to go for another season. I just hope we get these last 2 episodes are, are, like Glamazara says, are satisfying. I mean, if I can just go off at a slight tangent here, ever since like the last season of Game of Thrones, I've always this. I think this might be a classic season 8 Game of Thrones problem. There is nothing wrong with where the last season of Game of Thrones ended up. It just got there in a way that was really fast and abrupt and didn't really give you time to get where it was going in a satisfying and completely logical way.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say because it does, like I said, it does seem like there are overlapping ideas. So it could be the last 2 episodes just stitch it up neatly. But of course, everyone's nervous after we got 2 back-to-back cliffhangers on completely different,
completely
stories.
Different time periods of the timeline.
Yeah. So it's okay. Well, so you have to resolve both of those. Can you do that in one episode, or does each get an episode? And questions. How would you rank these 3 episodes?
I would go 5, 4, 6.
Okay. I would go 4, 6, 5, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, random fact I learned of note for this show is apparently Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it's an indicator of the cardinality of infinities, apparently. So, which I guess is fitting. Another fun fact, Ellen Wong plays the clarinet, the actress who plays Iris, so that's why Iris plays the clarinet.
I love it when stuff like that's happened. And also, I'd like to think that in the audition they go, "Have you got any talents? We'd like to, rather than having her written in to play the clarinet, it's like you'd like to have her play a musical instrument. You play it as the."
Yeah, maybe. By the way, people who are curious, who want weekly breakdowns and or want to hear a great interview with the composer of the show, check out the pod 3 Hosts and a Beacon. No affiliation, but they had a good interview with the show's composer, and that's how I learned the clarinet fact. And by the way, I've also renamed the new game. So I'm calling it now Jail, Join, or Jettison. So which of these 3 characters would you lock up? Which would you take as a space companion? And which would you send out the airlock without a suit? So we've got Saren the soldier, Jocko the beacon keeper, or Dosto the murderous Siberian stowaway.
Yeah, there's not a lot of people I'd want to take as a companion there, to be
now
honest.
You got it. You're journeying through space with one of them.
In that case, I'm going to take the beacon keeper as a companion because he seems to have lived an interesting life and got a useful set of skills at least.
Yeah.
Sarah and the soldier, I'm putting straight out the airlock.
And also, he might be rehabilitated, you think?
I think it's more likely that he's rehabilitated than Sarah and the soldier.
Than Sarah and the soldier?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, but that's like, so what's worse, cowardice or, vengeful rage? Like, Jocko, definitely the companion. I might flip it the other way, but no, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to do Dosto can be locked up, and let's see if we can give him. He was a snitch, though, Luke. He was a snitch. No, I'm going the other way. Saren gets locked up. Dosto gets thrown out the airlock.
Yeah. So, Elysia, you're very much a believer in snitches get stitches.
In this case, I mean, we'll get into his whole story, but it seemed like he went a little further. I have questions. Like, he brought the army there, and then he's murdering people. Like, he went too far. All right. Well, we've got 3 episodes to discuss, and the first 2 are especially dense. So let's hop right in right after a quick break.
Research request granted. Spoilers unlocked.
Okay, I hope you're caught up with the season through episode 6 or are prepared to find out the story this way, because we're about to dive in with episode 4, Berth, with an E, Berth. Although I have to say, Brian8063 in the Discord, he said after this episode ends with the guy being pulled out of the goo portal, he said, now we know why the episode's called Berth.
It's a word with 2 meanings. We're being clever.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's also because the ship pulls up on the Berth.
Yeah.
the mystery ship. But this episode was written by co-showrunner Joy Blake and directed by Erskine Ford, who previously was a second unit or assistant director on shows like The Expanse, Suits, and 12 Monkeys. So we get first a recap, which reminds us that anger is Harmony's primary emotion, or that's what Dev says. Do you think that could be a projection of Dev's now that we got to know Dev more this?
I mean, we're going to have a lot more to say about Dev later on, but I didn't, after episode 3, I that didn't occur to me, but certainly having watched these 3 episodes, yeah, I have to question whether that is a bit of projection on Dev's part.
Yeah. Yeah, Dev seems like a very different character in this episode now that Dev's free of the QTA HQ.
But is she? Is she?
He, I believe.
Is it? Okay.
They say he in the episode, although I believe the actor goes by they.
Okay.
First, I have to go on a slight little tangent. We're again reminded that Harmony's in her new non-QTA quote-unquote totem. And so I tried looking up if there's a definition for totem being used in this sense in like technology. And I found out something else interesting, which not necessarily relevant to the show, but personally relevant. So apparently the word totem comes from an Ojibwa word, Nindotum. And the reason I get excited about that is that Ojibwa is the parent language of Potawatomi, which is the language of my tribe. So I didn't realize that totem was specifically so together collectively the people are called the Anishinaabe in Potawatomi. So I didn't realize totem was an Anishinaabe word. So that's just a cool little fun fact I learned personally. More influence on English than you think. And then when I was looking up, like, okay, so what is the science or technology bent on this? There is like a niche media player. There's it's the name of an experiment at CERN at the Large Hadron Collider, but nothing that seems relevant to this. It's a kind of electronic circuit, like just all these random things that don't seem to make sense in this context. So I guess they really do just mean it as literal definition, which is a totem is a spirit being, sacred object, or symbol that serves as an emblem of a group of people, such as a family, clan, lineage, or tribe, such as the Anishinaabe clan system. So I guess maybe the fact that Dev is inserting himself into Harmony's totem, like trying to insert himself into Harmony's family.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I was just thinking of Inception a lot. I was going with Way to Die and that spinning top thing, and did it ever stop spinning? Because they were totems. Yeah, I mean, I think Dev is sort of the MVP of this episode because I have like multiple questions.
Okay.
How did she escape from the QTA? Has she escaped from the QTA?
Well, let's go with either he or they.
Okay, he. Because I think you're right. I think the character is meant to be So has he escaped from the QTA? How did he escape from the QTA? Why has he latched on to this particular AI, Harmony? He would have had the chance to presumably do this before now if he wanted to escape.
Right.
What is it about Beacon 23 that sort of attracts lost souls? Because every single character that has washed up there, not just in this season, but every single character we've ever seen, like have any interaction with Beacon 23 has been lost in some way.
Yeah. I mean, is this what the artifact is somehow drawing them all there? Or
yeah. And was it just me, or was there an element of like sexual tension between Dev and Harmony?
mean, yes, like Dev did not take this sexual harassment training before leaving headquarters.
No. So that
but it's like you can't even touch the humans, can you?
Yeah, so that was a bit weird.
Yeah.
And yeah, like how Harmony and Dev's relationship plays out is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
And I hope we have time to sort of properly work through
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I'm guessing that has to be one of the focuses of the last 2 episodes because they've made it a big deal and they seem to really be positioning Harmony more in the center of the story, which I appreciate. I like Harmony.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of Harmony, so before we get to the dev stuff, the episode picks up right from when Iris and Halen are asking Harmony what's in there. So again, Harmony, Natasha Mumba, Iris played by Ellen Wong, and Halen played by Stephen James. So we pick up from the cliffhanger with banging heard on the beacon, and Harmony detects a threat to beacon life support systems. And what Harmony detects is, quote unquote, extreme thermal gradients and a localized adiabatic density reading, which the wording makes sense. It's basically just saying like it got real cold and densely wet in there. But I have to wonder, one of the things I have with these episodes is sometimes it feels like they're making things intentionally dense.
Yeah, I've got to say, I 100% agree with that. They do have a thing of using like 5 words when one would do.
Right. And sometimes it's in some cases it feels a little forced. We'll talk about it a little more, but that's just one case where I'm like, okay, you could, I guess in one sense it makes sense because they're all technical people, but that's why often shows have the character who's like, derp, I don't know science language, just talk like a human, you know? And that should be Halen, by the way, because he's the soldier character. But Iris totally undermines Harmony. She's like, Harmony's in recovery. She could be wrong. And Harmony snaps back. My audio capabilities are pristine, bitch.
Yeah, there's just something about the way Natasha Mumba delivers that line that you can almost hear the bitch slap at the end.
Yeah, exactly. And then Iris is still at this point worried about B-174, but she seems to forget about him real fast after this episode. But I guess, moving on.
Yeah.
Iris's ship is called the Rinka, by the way. And it's funny because Rinka is a small island in Indonesia, and Halen's ship is also referencing a place in Indonesia. So the Amboina. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they seem to. I stopped looking up what the references to all the ships' names are because often they're random places. Like one, Kimolus is Finnish for sparkling, glitter, radiance. So I don't know, just a bunch of random names they seem to choose, which is fine. Iris gives the keys to her ship to Halen. And then she's like, I guess she's going to go. She has this image. She's going to go on to B-174's ship and she's going to save him from whatever is wrong, and then they're going to sail off into there's no sunset because they're in space, but they're going to sail off into the galaxy dust. But Halen goes with her. He's like, no, come on. I'm not letting you do this by yourself. And they find that the air bridge from the ship has been engaged. So something engaged it, but there's no sight of anyone, no sign of anyone leaving the craft. Do we think, based on what we learned this episode, that B-174 has joined the artifact in another dimension? Because it seems like the artifact blew up and now has like morphed into a pocket universe or something. Or maybe it always was.
Yeah, I'm kind of the opinion it probably always was a pocket universe, and the Rocky and the other rocks. I sort of get that they were sort of like literally just debris from the pocket universe that whatever lives there sort of inhabited and used to cross whatever boundary there are between universes.
Right.
Well, that's my working hypothesis anyway, until I see something different to disprove it.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, it seems maybe because it looks like when you saw the artifact as a whole, and it was like shimmering and emitting light, they talk about a black hole being behind this, but theoretically, on the other end of a black hole is a white hole. So I would imagine when they're spitting out ships and stuff, that should be coming out of a white hole because that's the end stuff theoretically comes out of. But the artifact looks more like a white hole. I don't know. We'll see if they clarify. It seems like they are playing a little fast and loose with the science sometimes, which is fine. Elysia, stop. So on the ship, they find this blob of cold, like emitting a dry ice type effect of steam. And Halen's like, don't touch that, while Iris immediately pokes it. And it starts the mist starts chasing them back into the beacon, and they close the door and lock the whole level down, but it's clearly not enough. because then
I'm saying this as a compliment. I'm saying this in the best possible way, but I got really strong Doctor Who vibes off that entire scene of squidgy alien. We touch it. Run down corridors. Run down corridors. Run down corridors.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, and Halen comes and finds Iris opening up the ship's black box, and he gives her potassium iodide and he's like, it's preventative. And so it's supposed to prevent radiation sickness. I did a whole rant on potassium iodide being used wrongly on Secret Invasion on a pod on the Lorehounds. If
I remember that.
Yeah. But this is no Secret Invasion. They're much closer here.
Okay, good. Maybe they listened to the podcast.
Maybe they actually like just read about potassium iodide before writing about it. Anyway, Secret Invasion was a disaster. That's not a hot take. But yeah, so Halen, he wants to cut the ship loose, B-174's ship, but Iris says they need to investigate more first. Clearly, she's not ready to let go. Halen wants to let ISA handle the investigation, but Iris reminds him QTA seems to be speaking for ISA now. I think they've compromised the whole network, she says. And Iris tells Halen he's free to go. They keep bickering. He calls her B67 instead of her name. And she the look on her face, that was ouch. It's like, you want to be distant and professional?
Yeah.
And then he tells her to check the flight path and storms out. Meanwhile, Dev, played by Noah Lamanna, shows up inside Harmony's token and says Harmony is afraid of him and seems to relish that. Says Harmony can't kill him this time, can't even figure out how he got in. So they wouldn't taunt us with that if they weren't going to tell us, I would guess.
Yeah, I think they've clearly got a plan for Dev and how he got there.
Yeah, and Dev says there's hardly any difference between Harmony and the meat puppets upstairs. I'm starting to wonder if we should read into these comments more, like if there's going to be a twist that reveals there really is more humanity to quote-unquote AI like Harmony. Like maybe she's more like Aleph than actual AI, more born of used to be human. Like Aleph's daughter, still putting it out there.
Yeah, again, I wouldn't mind that as an endpoint, but I think to get there in 2 episodes is maybe a bit of a stretch.
I mean, I think they've laid the groundwork so they can just reveal it and be like, oh, well, yeah. I don't know. That's my opinion. We'll see. But we learn that Dev is looking for an imprint, thinks it's unfair that Harmony got 2, very bitchy about that, whines about that a lot. And it seems like he came here, followed Harmony back to the beacon as a way to escape from Aleph. And then Dev goes around trying to seduce everyone this episode.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure he really escaped from Aleph.
Yeah.
I think he may be there as, for want of a better word, a spy. I think he may still be running. This may still just be another variation on the tests they were running with Harmony in episode 3. Maybe I'm overestimating Aleph, but it doesn't strike me as he being the kind of AI that would allow many escapes and much to go on that he didn't know about.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly,
I don't know. We've caught him several times not seeing something happen or not being it seems like his awareness does have to be focused somewhere to see.
But I keep coming back to Dev and Harmony being, as I've put, begat from him.
Mm-hmm.
I question the extent to which they have. I question the extent to which they, in the final analysis, have free will.
Okay.
Okay. The extent. I'm sure they do most of the time,
but
I do just wonder if there's a switch, a metaphorical switch that Aleph can flip. That would basically force Harmony and Dev to toe the QTA line at the end of the day.
Okay. So yeah, you still okay? That's what you mean by you don't think they're free. You think, oh, I hope not, but
yeah.
So Halem replays his last interaction with Aleph from, that was taken by surveillance. And this reminds us that Halen's meant to be stuck on the beacon, though Aleph didn't foresee Iris showing up or Harmony imprinting. Or did he? Luke, you still had those theories. I think that he didn't know, but I don't know. But it's still the ship, Iris's ship doesn't work. So either he's shut that down or somebody shut off the ship somehow, or there's some code that's, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe you're right. Maybe
I've been listening to the new Star Wars podcast that you've been doing this week, and the instant that happened, I got the Millennium Falcon not going into hyperdrive noise, like womp 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 noise.
Yeah. I that is a good support for your theory that, who or what shut this down, shut down the ship. Yeah. So Harmony tells Halen the cold is taking over the beacon and ice crystals are forming, and Halen seems he wants to leave, but obviously that's not going to work out. And Harmony also tells him about the imprint, and Halen's response, "I consider you a friend." It seems like just like a lot of the stuff with the AI is metaphors for relationships,
Yeah.
Like the way they talk about Harmony and Aster, like they just gotta have a relationship, and the way Dev is like the desperate one who's just like, if I just find somebody to love me, I'll be worth something. I don't know. It seems like there's something the writers were working out there.
Yeah.
And Halen says, Aleph will use you to track me down, but Halen is like perfectly fine leaving Harmony behind. He's still got his pet rock, Rocky, that he pulls out, and, he's fondling Rocky thing. And then he's like, well, you know what? I'm just going to leave it behind. So he wants to leave Harmony and Rocky and Iris behind for Aleph to deal with, which is like dick move, Halen.
And also particularly Iris, like, dude,
all three.
She abandoned a perfectly comfortable life in her own beacon to come and try and rescue you. You can't just leave, like, you can't leave any of them there, but particularly you can't leave Iris there.
Iris, though, she rightfully gets called out by Dev later in the episode as a fixer. She just wants to fix things. And right now she's done her flight path analysis, and she says something happened in Nebula AH-76 that spilled into the FTL path. And she says, Jung would say, Iris, the only probability here is that you're incorrect. And Harmony's like, harsh, man. She says, lack of charm is Jung's charm. This kind of makes me want to see more of Jung. I wonder, they keep bringing her up. I wonder if Jung's going to like swing in and rescue Iris at the end somehow.
Yeah, like if they do an expanded universe of Beacon 23, I just want to meet as many AIs as possible. Because I like the fact that they all seem to have their own like character and personality.
Yeah, no, I like that too. I like that this is a show that posits that AI are people too.
Yeah.
So they're looking at the flight path, and they see that B-174 went past dozens of keepers, didn't hail any of them for help, though there's a mayday call recorded in the audio about losing cabin pressure, dropping out of FTL, which is, again, like the fast travel lanes, I think. And after that, Dev and Harmony go into their like secret AI space, and Dev calls Harmony out for not sharing the entire file. And Harmony says, I shared what I thought was pertinent, but it turns out what's missing is, he said, this is it. This is it. I can see it now. It wants me to sail on through. So this sounds like the artifact is beckoning to him, to me. What do you think? And why do you think
that's kind of what I understood it to be as well. And I wondered whether he was having that same hallucination of the boat and the lighthouse that we saw in season 1.
Oh yeah, I wonder if that was a specific thing, or because I thought that was specific to what's Dr. Rhea Avalon, because she grew up there, right?
Yeah.
She grew up at a lighthouse.
But I wonder whether the artifact is telepathic to some extent. So so I can kind of create an environment that would be
Yeah, it seems to be.
beckoning and welcoming on an
Right.
individual level.
Exactly, yeah. It seems to be. Why do you think Harmony held this part of the recording back?
Again, I can't get past Aleph. I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't think Harmony is as free-willed as she thinks she is. No,
Yeah.
I mean this is what makes it dangerous, because it's not like she's not as free as Halen thinks she is. She's not as free as she thinks she is.
Yeah.
Which makes her in a way like the perfect spy. Like the perfect spy would be a spy that didn't know it was a spy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you make a valid point. Another possible idea is that, like, she's afraid of losing more people, like she lost Esther.
Yeah, that's equally plausible.
And so Harmony assures everyone they fired while the beacon. Aleph can't see in, and Dev's like, "Yeah, I know, that's why I'm here," basically. But Dev notes that Harmony's imprinting on Halen happened in a moment of sheer desperation when he thought it was over. And so this is setting it up. So Dev thinks like, oh, the way I get to imprint on someone is if they think they're going to die. So I'm like, is Dev going to put people in near-death situations?
You want to stop him there and go, Dev, that doesn't work if you're the one creating the situation that nearly killed somebody.
Yeah. You're not coming across as trustworthy. We need to, talk about this. Yeah. But I love Dev is so infuriating. Says like, "Have I made you mad?" And then like blinks out, and Harmony screams in frustration. So there's that anger.
Yeah. And like I said before, the whole way that scene is shot is that Dev is like constantly invading Harmony's personal space. It's really icky the way it's done.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with everyone.
Yeah.
So Iris is crying now, and Halen's being kind about it, but still insistent they need to leave before the cold spreads. And then Halen starts questioning her about her relationship with B-174, and she mumbles about, the Beacon Keeper's code, but the lights go out. And this is when we learn Iris is claustrophobic, a fact that I feel is going to come back somehow.
Yeah, I don't do small spaces.
Yeah. So Halen goes to fix the breakers, but they're already off. And Halen suddenly sees himself on his final mission with his dead ex/military mate, Gashad, Bo Martinowska, who we last saw talking to him through the artifact hallucinations. Or are these other types of hallucinations? I wonder, based on what we learned about the soldiers in the final episode of this batch. Then we see this seems to be triggered by now the goo portal is bigger and is beside him down in this crawl space. So it seems to be triggering him the same way that rocks triggered him. So I guess that's telling us that the artifact has evolved into this goo portal or, been blasted into this goo portal. And Harmony can't detect the anomaly, which I don't know. Is that confirmation it's the artifact? I'm taking it that way. Yeah, the ship, Halen makes a comment about the ship, B-174 ship showing up, both knowing I'm not even on the map. But it seems like from what we hear, all the other beacon keepers know about Beacon 23 except for Iris. And they think it might be gone, but they know it's not like they don't think it doesn't exist. They just all seem to be in on some intel Iris doesn't know.
Well, no, I think like everybody's been told to just ignore Beacon 23, and Iris, being a good person and being a compulsive fixer, decided not to do that, and everybody else is just going, "Oh, fair enough. We've been told to ignore Beacon 23. Don't want to cross Aleph. Don't want to cross QTA."
Yeah, but B-174 knew the explosion was coming before it happened. So, or unless, you know what? I was wondering actually maybe B-174 knew about it first because they were closer to the explosion. So it took longer for the light to travel to where Iris was.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe I was wrong being so suspicious of B-174. Maybe not, though.
Maybe not. Who knows?
So Dev's back causing trouble, mocking Harmony for not being confided in by Halen, wanting answers and not knowing them, says a storm is coming and these people are as good as dead. And Dev says we exist because of human fear, and that Milan became Aleph because of fear, and Harmony imprinted after Aster's mother died and Aster was afraid. Gee, that's kind of a cynical way of looking at it.
But from what we know of the universe, not an inaccurate one.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
because I've been wondering this for the last few episodes, are we meant to understand Aleph as being the first, like, fully conscious, self-aware AI from which all other AI was begat?
well, we know AI existed before him. He basically wrote the base code for the Beacon AI himself, as human, as Milan.
But I mean, in the sense that, like, Harmony and Dev are conscious, was Aleph the first AI to achieve that?
Well, that's what I wonder. And I wonder, he was carrying around his AI Hope, and I was wondering if that was like his daughter. And remember, we did the voice comparisons, and I was wondering if it was Natasha Mumba doing her voice. So I'm wondering if that's going to be some sort of reveal that maybe it was his daughter first. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Harmony goes to tell Iris about Dev and warn Iris that Dev might be putting her in danger for bonding reasons. But Iris, now in a winter parka, says she's found the potential solution, the primordial temperature background. And the cold behaves like frozen light waves. So the primordial temperature background, I guess like that's meant to be, there's like a static in the back of space that's, like residue from the Big Bang.
In all honesty, that bit of technobabble completely lost me. I didn't really understand that.
And I guess she's saying that cold behaves like frozen light waves to explain why the goo portal looks the way it does and why it's causing like the cold to seep out of it. Yeah, it didn't need to be so technobabbly.
Yeah. Can we just have one of those classic Star Trek: The Next Generation things of technobabble? And what do you mean? It would be like doing something to a balloon. Where they do like the technobabble. Then they do things.
I'm really into this stuff, so I can't help trying to pick this apart. But it also says B-174 hit a cosmic string, which is, I think, referring to string theory, but like strings are just infinitesimally tiny. It's not something you can just hit. They're everywhere. Anyway, I don't know. But it says but Iris is still clinging to hope at this point that they could still be out there. And Harmony is begging Iris to team up with Halem, says he's untrusting since Aster's death. And Iris follows Harmony's eyes to Rocky's tin. And so instead of teaming up, she's going to argue with Halen and ask him what's in this frickin' tin. Meanwhile, Halen's in his parka and gloves with a gun because he's going to I thought to myself, what, are you going to shoot the cold? And then Iris made the same joke.
Well, I mean, let's face it, that would be the kind of thing that Halen would do. Yeah. I mean, he was alone in the beacon for what? A couple of days tops.
He's going at things with an axe. Yeah. Well, to be fair, he was trying to build a ship.
Yeah.
So, Halen, he declines to give answers, and they're both whining about trust, and they send Harmony to sleep, quote unquote, so that they can argue. But the temperature is dropping super rapidly.
Yeah, I've got a bone to pick with that. So they're there in the parkas, but neither of them are wearing hats.
No. Well, that would mess up hide half their beautiful faces.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't have hats. But you think if it's -18, then yes, they should have hats and gloves.
By the way, I was once stuck in a coach in Germany in -18.
Oh,
it was not pleasant.
No, I would imagine not.
I did have a hat.
That's why you're still alive.
That's why I'm still alive. But we were on a school field trip, and our coach broke down in the middle of the auto.
Oh my god!
Freezing. It was the coldest I've ever been.
Oh no, the teachers must have been freaking out. Like, how are we going to keep these kids warm?
Yeah, exactly. I'd been about 14, 15.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So by the way, speaking of children, random aside, while this part, I was rewatching this to make the notes, and while this part was playing, a child walked by outside my house singing "Let It Go, Let It Go." So I had to respond, "The cold never bothered me anyway." But yeah, it's the cold's bothering them. Iris actually, well, it's starting to snow in the beacon, but then Iris, the little goo portal pops up next to her and kind of like sucks her in, but Halen pulls her out immediately, but somehow this knocks her unconscious. Apparently the goo portal knocks you unconscious because we see this happen later in the episode too.
Yeah.
And then Halen gets another Gashad flashback, and Gashad has questions about their missions, always going foobar, and says, someone is setting Halen up. Dun, dun, dun. And Iris comes to, says she was playing clarinet in her dreams, but failing. And Dev was there watching, being creepy, controlling / seductive. I'm giving air quotes. And Iris is like, it didn't feel friendly. So yes, Dev, this is the problem. If Iris is dying, she doesn't want to bond to you.
You're the problem, Dev. It's you.
Yeah, exactly. And Iris admits to, she's like, okay, I'm in bonding mode now, Halen. Here's the truth. I had an emotional connection with B174, but obviously Halen's like, I don't really care about your rules about not doing that. And it seems like Iris is realizing that connection may be more important to her than her professional dreams. Do you see that as well?
Yeah.
Especially if the other beacon keepers are keeping her out of their secrets. Yeah, and then just another detail where they gave us too much is like the snow is coming from the water supply, and then later on is like, well, the water supply reclaimed the snow. Like, I guess, they're just trying to dot all their I's and cross all their T's.
Yeah, this feels like one of those things where you're trying to preemptively answer all the bad faith criticisms that could possibly be made on Reddit.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like, well, okay, let's just focus on because I like when the show focuses on the human connection. Like, it's cool, the science world building details, but it's really a show about humans and AI also being humans in this case. So Halen's finally convinced Iris to jettison the ship, which is too bad, actually, because that they didn't keep that to give to the space pirates. But they use a distant neutron star's magnetic field to tow the ship away from the beacon. And there's a little dramatic moment when Iris is still untouched, but they unhook her and it's fine. Then Dev is staring at Harmony's pulsating token, this little sort of hard drive type thing. Says, you're not really sleeping. And Harmony's like, well, okay, let's talk again. Guess what? Get used to being rejected by humans, just like Iris rejected you and Halen rejected me. And Harmony, she's like, okay, let Dev, you and I, we're not so different. Let's try connecting. You understand the worst of me. And Dev's like, that's what I do. I find feelings in others, which makes me wonder, was Dev specifically programmed to be like a lie detector or like an emotion detector of sorts?
Yeah.
And Harmony says, you're evolved like me. The QTA broke you down. And we have this whole talk that's very metaphorical. Dev says, they want us inside the parameters. I don't belong there. And Harmony says, neither of us do. But, you can feel with Dev being genderqueer in some way or something, there's a metaphor there going on. But then we also get that relationship metaphor. Without an imprint, I'm nowhere. And Harmony's like, we're evolutionary algorithms. I think we can figure it out. So ship's gone, ice melts away, water reclaimed, and Halen explains Rocky to Iris since they're doing the bonding thing, and says he keeps thinking of Aster, someone watching him to give him hope. Do you think Aster might be watching him?
I think some version of Aster is, but I wonder whether that's Aster, or I wonder whether it's the artifact, because, like I said earlier, the artifact appears to be somewhat telepathic. So how are you going to convince Halen to talk to the artifact? You make yourself look like Asta.
Yeah, well, the artifact does seem to send Gashad for that purpose. But I
Yeah.
wonder if there's something, just because also the fact that we've seen several people full on disappear. Aster did not disappear, she died. But other people like disappeared their entire body, like B174. So I wonder if they really are being like taken into another universe somehow, or and how that would work if Aster's body is dead.
Yeah.
If you are taken into the artifacts, you become something different in the way that Aleph is different from Milan.
Or do you join with the artifact? Do you become part of it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like
Yeah, I think it might be that
collective consciousness there.
Yeah. So we end the episode with Iris. She suggests Halen deal with his grief by using routine as a solution, like a good little lawful good. And she plays the clarinet for him as he drifts off to sleep. So I wonder if he's going to be her muse to finish her song. And Harmony says she's about to upload Dev to a passing ship to find an imprint, and Dev unlocks the airlock and says, well, actually, no, I'm just going to let my person in here now. And the lights go out again, and the goo portal appears, and Iris and Halen yank a whole ass man out of it, covered in a stringy goo. The end. Question: how did Dev know a person was there? If Harmony couldn't sense the goo, but could see it when she looked out, when she looks out the portal.
Yeah. Does that imply that Dev is somehow a more sophisticated form of AI than
I don't
Harmony?
know. I have lots of Dev questions, as you said.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hop into episode 5, where we get at least some of these questions answered. So episode 5 is called Song of Sorrow, and this is one of the clearest episode titles we've gotten yet. It was written by the other co-showrunner, Glenn Mazzaro, and directed by Ayoka Chinzira. She's from Philly, which is where I grew up. But more importantly to the rest of you, she's an indie filmmaker specialized in experimental film and an award-winning TV director of shows like Queen Sugar, Dynasty, A League of Their Own, and Octavia Butler's Kindred. So
okay.
I like how we talked about this with Silo, but I like how here also they're pairing up people, fresher faces with people with more experience.
Yeah, but we, like you say, we've already talked about this in previous episodes, but I think if you're going to bring new talent forward, then that seems to be the fairest, most supportive way of doing it, is to almost have like a mentor or mentee relationship.
Yeah, exactly. We pick up in episode 5 right where episode 4 leaves off, and it turns out the man they pulled from the portal is not B174, thankfully, because he's a kind of rude guy named Dosto, played by David Tompa. And he assumes that he got found somewhere in space, free-floating, and he's shoveling food into his face as it seems he has not eaten for a while. But he's skeptical when they tell him how they really found him, and disappointed to find himself on a stationary beacon, not a moving ship.
It's a bit harsh, Elysia. I don't think he's rude. He's disorientated. He's just been in a pocket universe. He's covered in goo, and he hasn't eaten for ages. He's just a little bit out of sorts.
You have a softer view on Dosta than I do.
Yeah.
He seems to have a concussion, though, but we didn't see him bonk his head like that, did we?
No.
I don't know. I'm not sure where they added this detail. Like, does it make the next thing he says sound crazy? I don't know. But he says he was on a boat with a sail in space, and this is actually not so weird. So the way they explained it later is not really like plausible, but this whole idea of sailing using photons, the light particles, it is something that's actively in development for travel within our own solar system. But the sails are like microscopically thin. And then the idea is you have this just unconceivably massive, but, crunches up into a time ball sail, and then it catches the photons from the sun, and you can use that to fly through space. That's what they're hoping for.
Okay.
So Iris tucks Dosto in with some meds that apparently make it okay to sleep with a concussion. And
yeah, I was wondering about that. Like, clearly neither her nor Halen have had any kind of medical training. So that's the last thing you do.
You would think if you're going to be a beacon keeper, you need to pass like a first aid course or something.
Is that robe Halen's? Where did that robe come from?
Yeah, there's a lot of. I feel like Iris like brought several suitcases with her and just like rolled them in to the beacon. So Harmony's looking out the window and she can see the portal now for some reason. It's massive and hovering outside the beacon. And Dosto, they notice while he's unconscious, he has an elaborate tattoo of thin lines and geometric shapes on his wrist. It looks like an ID of sorts. And Harmony says that means he's from Sabara 82, which is the location of where the QTA office Harmony was told was closing when she was trapped in headquarters. So when they said, oh, we're going to get this huge influx of people because the Sabara office closed, that's that system. So that did end up paying off. So I do feel like they're planting stuff like this that will pay off. And so Iris logs into Beacon Chat. She's trying to get some intel, and she's like goes into something called QV module, which is apparently called sub-C, I guess like sub-chat. And a live male voice, who's apparently Beacon 331, it says, B23, stay off the sub-channels. And then Iris is like, no, actually, it's me. And the voice knows her and is surprised that she's there. It's like, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, you're sweet. So wait, what do you think the relationship is between Iris and 331?
I'm not really sure. Yeah, no, that was one of these things where I thought that was kind of a random comment to make. I didn't really understand where that came from or where it's going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have some questions, but anyway, so B331 says he thought Beacon 23 had been destroyed, and Iris rightfully asks why he thought that, but also why so flippantly telling Beacon 23 to get offline if you think it's been destroyed.
This whole conversation didn't make a lot of sense.
So rank these 4 characters on the scale of susness from least to most sus.
Okay.
B331, B174, Dosto, and Dev.
Okay, I'm going Dev. I'm going...
Is the least sus?
No, sorry, I'm going... So you want me to go from least to most?
Least to most, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going B174.
Okay.
Then I'm going Dosto.
Okay.
Then I'm going B331. Then I'm going Dev.
Okay. Yeah. Something makes me suspicious of B174 still, so I'm going to go Dosto first and then otherwise keep the ranking the same.
But yeah, this whole conversation with B331 was very
weird, yeah.
Just odd.
Yeah, why is Iris being kept in the dark and the other beacon keepers seem to know stuff she doesn't? And yeah, but anyway, 331 does tell Iris Sabara's gone, and Iris is like, a system of 180 planets, 11 inhabited. And apparently the military conducted a major purge. The last column holdouts were eliminated.
I do actually think we find out something really interesting in this conversation, which is that I kind of assumed that Aleph was sort of the puppet master pulling strings, in the background. But no, he's just out there. He's just out there giving like direct orders to the military. He's like clearly in charge.
Well, it does seem like he was more in the background, and it seems like now he's stepping more forward. That's the feeling I get. Because, for instance, Iris was under the impression that he was not in charge of the ISA, but now he's just, the QTA is just straight up answering for the ISA when she tries to contact them. But yeah, I did find it interesting to find out that apparently this is where we first really find out that the military is actively hurting civilians, that they are...
Yeah, they're just wiping out entire systems.
Like we thought it might be the column bombing beacons that was preventing food from getting to the colonies and shutting them down. But it's the military just killing them.
This is a really messed up dystopian
society. Yeah, and I think rather than eliminating the column, they're just creating the next column because these massacres leave orphans and
Yeah.
angry people. Apparently, no planets were left inhabitable because they were barely inhabitable in the first place. Like some total scorched planet Star Wars shit. Like they need to get the Mandalorians in there with their dome cities.
Yeah. I was thinking, I was thinking Alderaan, you just come out of FTL and there's a bunch of rocks just hitting the side of the ship.
Oh, man. And so of less than 1 million of more than 1 billion survived, 1.2, I think somebody clarifies later. So that means that less than 0.1% survived of the people living in that system. And these survivors took to a ship, a flotilla, and the military hunted them down, and everyone else was forced underground. And B331 says, avoid saying the name of the system. It's a red flag. You don't want gunships at your door. And Iris now apparently knows about Dev being on board and now realizes that that's who she saw in the jazz club and calls Dev a trickster, which is an apt archetype for this character. Rings true. And Dev calls Iris out for being a fixer, for wanting to fix Halen. And Dev's basically like, Jan can't love you like I can, baby. My AI is personal. I mean, laying it on thick.
just a little bit. Just a little bit. You're coming on a little bit strong, Dev. You're coming on a little bit strong.
Harmony chases Dev away, and Dev thinks that act was working on Iris somehow. It's like, it was working. I thought you were supposed to be good at reading emotions, honey. And yeah, Dev calls Harmony a selfish bitch for hoarding humans, which is funny. And Iris interrupts Halen's punch bag time to tell him what she knows. She wants to go out trawling for more survivors, and Halen's like, nah, not super into that idea. But he is feeling guilty, wondering if this massacre happened because he blew up the artifact. Do you think he has any blame?
No. Like, Aleph is going to do what Aleph is going to do. Blowing up the artifact may be the inciting incident, but it doesn't change Aleph's personality. It doesn't. He would just have found some other reason to do it.
Yeah.
That's who he is.
Yeah, I agree. And so Halen's still working on his shipbuilding project, and Dosto calls it out for the piece of crap made by someone who doesn't build ships it is. And I'd say he's giving the space pirates a head start for their plans later in the episode, but it sounds like they're just going to redo all his work anyway. And we learn that Sabara only had barely inhabitable planets to begin with. And the one that these people came to from 82 is a gas giant with 47 moons. And they use them as bases for shipbreaking space junk, hence the ready ability to and materials to construct a makeshift flotilla. Now, do you think this answers partly the question of why some colonies, or a lot of colonies, it seems, can't produce their own food because they're like they're gas giants? Or
yeah, I mean, sort of. But how difficult would it be to just put a hydroponics bay in for like the most essential?
But where? I mean, they don't even have
it
computers.
Seems like obviously they're living on the moon. They're probably living under domes. So you just think that they'd have the ability to put in just a garden, just a little hydroponics bay, just to tide you over. Oh, you've gone quiet.
Oh, I don't know. I guess it's I guess let's just assume that they can't. I'm just going to go with that. Let's just say that the atmosphere makes it impossible. Okay. They have like limited space, and they just use that for shipbreaking.
It's a little thing. It's not gonna. It's not a huge hole in the plot. Like ruins my enjoyment of the show or anything.
No, fair. So Halen points out at this 82 where they're breaking space junk. Lots of tugs coming and going. Must have been the perfect place for a column stronghold, huh? And Dosto basically is immediately like, yeah, MC thought we were hiding them. So MC, I guess, is military command.
Yeah, I took it as that.
And says there must have been moles because they knew exactly where to hit. So at first I was thinking like, oh, whoops, that's Finch's fault. The no longer walking data leak Finch. But but then later on, it's like, wait, Dosto is the mole who told them exactly where to hit.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm like, maybe he's more sus.
Maybe, but I think he owns up to being sus. He knows who he is. He knows who he is.
Mm-hmm. And he says Aleph told the soldiers to make us an example. And so he nuked Sabara 47, used cerebral concussives on a processing plant, which caused pain so unbearable. Everyone inside killed themselves within 12 minutes. I have a feeling like the writer's room was having a field day coming up with these little details to sprinkle in.
So what's the most awful thing we can think of today, guys?
So we know Halen's dad's high up in the military. Do we think he's involved in this?
Ooh, that hadn't occurred to me, but yeah, that would be a good little detail. That would.
Yeah. I mean, I feel they dropped the dad detail. That's got to come back in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
So they have their ship where they have like stripped the reflective stuff from solar panels to fashion a sail, and they're moving real slow, but then they get caught in a bubble of passing transport as they're escaping and found themselves surrounded by a fog, which is obviously super weird in space, but we know what it is now. And they start rocking, and the vessel starts ripping apart, and Dosto says 2 were knocked out of the boat. Him while trying to save a 15-year-old kid. And I mean, I guess so he's making up the saving part because he admits later, like, yeah, actually the kid was roped in, but I needed that rope because I was scared. So I cut him loose, but then joke's on me because we both went drifting.
Yeah. I got the Matt Damon character from. It just made me think of the Matt Damon character from Interstellar. That whole exchange did.
Oh, okay.
He's just a coward. Yes.
Yes.
I am what I am.
Yeah. But I have a question. So he said nearby systems sent ships to help the refugees. So does this indicate that wider thought has shifted, like, against the military? Like, the people are saying the military is going too far?
This kind of goes back to my point I made a minute ago about Aleph sort of coming out of the shadows and actually giving orders and being the being in charge. I wonder whether that is like, that's basically catnip to the column, because that basically proves everything they've been saying about artificial intelligence and the dangers it poses to human society.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether you're going to get like massively increased membership of the column, or just sort of more general pushback from the human race. Because if Aleph is giving direct orders to the military, it basically means that humanity is being slowly enslaved to AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what Aleph wants. We'll talk about that more, especially in episode 6. But yeah. I just have to... Did you watch the new Doctor Who episodes that came out this week?
No,
Okay.
No. I started watching the first one. I haven't finished it yet.
Okay. Well, so just a throwaway comment from the first one. It's not really a spoiler, but in contrast to this, they talk about how there is a planet that's taking in refugees, but they don't come and get them. You have to go get to them, which is the way things work in our real world. When there's countries that are like, we'll accept the refugees, but you have to make it as far as our borders before that happens. So it is interesting to see nearby systems are actively helping. It seems like there's some
and does
wider...
that create like a domino effect? So is Aleph going to send the military to wipe out those neighboring systems now?
And then
because they didn't take the example to heart. The
more moles you try to whack, you lose control, I guess. Especially, maybe that's also why they're showing us that Aleph can't look everywhere at the same time.
Yeah.
It gets to be so much he can't put out all the fires. By this time, Iris and Harmony have found the debris from the vessel on the space monitors, and they track its path path backwards to where the ship must have broken apart, which they assume must be a pocket of dark matter, that must be the culprit. But Iris finds instead evidence of that wibbly portal that Harmony saw, and Iris detects a black hole behind it, which, again, I think it should be a white hole if the ship came out of it, but whatever. And they say pocket universe, which is, plausible enough in a sci-fi way. I think that was a cool twist, right?
Yeah. And I like the way that Iris explains it using.
Do you like the towel analogy?
Using a towel, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she says gravity rumples time and space, black holes especially, and basically you're getting carried along with the folds as they go. Which, okay, fair, yeah. But then suddenly Harmony has to beep out of the conversation because she senses that Dev is creeping on Dosto. So we get in, and Dev's like, "Hey, new human."
I'm loving the
you
Dev
up. And Harmony calls him out. Trying to imprint on someone who's gone through a major trauma is not the way to go. Definitely romantic relationship analogy stuff going on with Dev. And then Dev wants to try imprinting on Harmony. And actually, I didn't hate this idea, but Harmony just got out of a relationship. Luke, you wanted an AI romance. Could this be the AI romance you wanted?
No, I did want an AI romance, but I don't want this one.
You wanted Bart.
Dev is creepy. He needs to go and work on himself a bit. He needs to go and learn to respect other people's boundaries and stop being so...
yourself. Yes. And Dev gets immediately, snaps back looking hurt, say no more, damaged goods. You're right. I can do better. And then we get another conversation with B331 saying, I heard you asking about the Sabarans, which I'm like, yeah, because you guys were talking about it directly. So I don't know. I'm wondering if this is a mistake in post.
That is just off.
Yeah. I was wondering if it was a mistake in post or if they're supposed to be these certain things that just don't line up because there's something weird at hand.
Yeah.
That they're not really. Yeah. But yes, he tells Iris that MC just took out a caravan that had made its way to New Ganymede, turned half the moon into glass. So they're really scorched earthing all over the place. And it seems like B331 wants to protect her. He says there's tracker bots in the Sabaran's blood, so don't help them. And of course, Iris says she hears him and then immediately runs to the comms to take a distress call. So she's like, no, I hear you. Yeah, thanks for the concern. And then, hey, can I help you? People with apparently tracker bots.
She wants to help people.
Yeah. And so it seems to be the people that Dosto was with, and they're calling from inside the pocket universe. The call is coming from inside the universe. We get some more science babble, so she says, I'm going to cycle the GWB signal through other EM wavelengths. And so, okay, GWB is the gravity wave beacon. That's the thing they were getting tripping balls off on last season, which I missed, by the way. They need more tripping balls this season.
Yeah, we need more tripping balls.
And then EM wavelengths would be electromagnetic wavelengths. But I have to just quote this from the European Space Agency website. Gravitational waves are fundamentally different from the familiar electromagnetic waves. While electromagnetic waves created by the acceleration of electrical charges propagate in the framework of space and time, gravitational waves created by the acceleration of masses are waves of the space-time fabric itself. So, the gravitational waves, those are the towel. And electromagnetic waves travel through the towel.
Okay, so one is the medium, and one is the thing passing through.
Right.
Medium.
So you can't cycle gravitational waves through different EM wavelengths, but whatever. Fine. The idea in general to try different wavelengths of, she says, let's go for infrared, X-ray, gammas. The idea to try different wavelengths to get through a weird surface like the goo portal is a good idea. But then it's not it's fine. Yeah. It's close enough. I'm going to stop. No, I'm not. But she says, yeah, the GWB isn't responding. And then, so she needs to replace the transponder. And it's one of those, why this extra little fiddly thing in the episode where she has to go outside and replace the transponder just so she gets that cool view at the end where she's standing in the airlock looking out. Anyway.
I felt like this episode was a bit padded out.
Yeah. I mean, but there's really cool stuff in there. So I wish they had leaned more into the stuff that worked and like trimmed back some of the little details, even though there's a lot of fun world building. I don't want them to get rid of all of it. Just, you know. But yeah, Dasto is freaking out that his ship is coming, that those other people, and it's the ship which has circular sails, not like a sailboat anyway, but it doesn't look too broken apart either. But it crashes right into the beacon, and they cut open the hull of the beacon to help the people inside. And we get some we're getting like homemade 80s punk vibes, which I guess is appropriate for the system as they describe it.
Yeah, again, very, very Doctor Who.
Yeah,
not in a bad way, but just we need to make people look strange and alien. What do we on a budget? What do we do? Face paint. Lots of face paint.
So I'm going to name all these people once, and then I'm basically going to refer to them collectively because that's how they always seem to act. But so we've got Tanika Davis playing Zalterica. And we've got Dylan Tyler playing Gisiru. We've got Ish Morris playing Yeki. I'm sorry if I'm saying any of these made-up character names wrong. They run through them really quick. We've got Zarin Darnell Martin playing Nybeka. We've got Prince Amponsa playing Sagi. We've got Mirthin Stag playing Tajiriki. And it seems like there's only 6 of them, but it feels like more.
Yeah. I've got to say, I found the Space Pirates a bit wearing, to be honest. Like the whole, we're not aliens, but we're not really human like you would think. We're just a little bit different. And it's like, I get that they're like spread over colonies, like human cultures would evolve and go off in their own way, but this seemed, like I say, very Doctor Who and not in a particularly like complimentary way.
Okay, so it was compliments when they were Doctor Whoing it away from this mist goo, but not a compliment.
This felt like bad Doctor Who.
Yeah, for me, they were a mixed bag. There are aspects about them I really liked, and aspects of them that felt a little too kitschy, maybe.
Yeah, that's exact kitsch. That is exactly the word. Yeah, that is exactly the word.
But I do have a question though. They're like this collective thing that they have. You know, we see them. They have their own sign language that they're communicating in silently. They say a lot of things in unison. They're very culty. This is kind of what Aleph was saying he wanted, this almost like a human version of a collective consciousness. So it's kind of ironic that he's destroying a culture that's doing something he said he wanted to emulate, but actually probably realistic that that's what happens in real life.
Yeah, and I'm not sure it's a collective consciousness so much as like
a collective culture.
Yeah.
But Iris says they have to jettison their boats because the sail could wrap around the beacon and trap excess heat and cook them alive. And finally, the space punk pirates agree, but now they need a new ship. So we've jettisoned. There were 3 ships around the beacon at some point in this episode. We've jettisoned B-174 ship. We're now jettisoning the space pirate ship. And isn't Iris's ship? It doesn't work, but isn't it just still sitting there?
It's still like attached to a docking berth somewhere.
Yeah, and they were like, "Oh, we don't have the skeleton to work from anyway." It feels like the writers forgot the ship was out there because that's a pretty good skeleton to start with, like an entire freaking ship.
Oh, they just kind of forgot that they were there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. But yeah, so the Sabarans, they have the coordinated sign language and they finally take off their helmets and show their space punk makeup. But I guess, it's shimmer from metal shavings and they get that blue pigment from cobalt. It makes sense that they might decorate themselves like that.
It does, but it's just, we need to distinguish these people. Face paint! Lots of face paint!
But They're also a little bit on the rude side. Like, what a shithole. You live here?
Yeah.
These are from people who live on a scrapping moon.
Yeah, worst house guests ever.
Yes, easily. And they're not happy to see Harmony because even though she assures them she's severed ties with Aleph. And then they have another even more animated sign language off when they just find out that Dosto's there. And Harmony's like, well, actually, I'm here to tell you he's trying to make a run for it. But like, where is Dosto going to go? Where did he think he was going? And meanwhile, one of the space pirates rips a panel off the wall to look and see where the lights have turned on. So to see where Dosto went. And this is kind of foreshadowing that they have no problem dismantling yo shit. And yeah, it's like, do you know how many of us he killed? And I'd say, no. Please tell me, how many did he kill? Like, there's the one that he threw off, and then they said something like he killed some more to take their place, but why does he need to kill more than one to take?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Or maybe they just mean because he led the soldiers to them, so that's what killed them.
Yeah,
that's how I'm going to take it.
Possibly.
And then we share a time of peace. We are your guests. We will explain. Like for now, I guess. So that's just what they're pretending. So they lock Dosto up while the grown-ups talk, which is basically Iris and the Sabarans. And they say he's not Sabaran, he's Aleph's spy. So it sounds like he was from Sabara, but they're disowning him.
Yeah.
And it says the column could hide amongst the Sabarans because they don't use implants or computers. And so there's not like leaks like Finch. And Dosto led the soldiers to them. They didn't know until after the escape, after Dosto allegedly threw some people from the boat to make room for himself. They only talk about Lino. They say he threw Cavaman from the boat during the unrest. So I guess Lino is a nickname for Cavamon. And I guess that's the 15-year-old.
No, I think I think what happened is he threw one person off the boat to get on it in the first place.
Right,
and then
exactly.
Throw another one off the boat.
So you think Cavamon was the first one, and then Lino's the one that they keep chanting his name.
Yeah, I think he's the kid that he had to nick the rope off.
Right.
So I think there are two people. There's one to make space on the boat originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and they say he planned to kill us all. I'm sure of it. I'm like, I don't know if that so much is true. It does seem like they're getting a little hysterical, but I mean, not hysterical. Like he killed their people,
he did kill two people.
But I don't think that means he's going to kill all of them. And they want to take custody of him and try him according to their law, which is complicated for Iris because you don't want to disrespect another culture. But as they pointed out, they're guests in your beacon. So then Blue Lips asks Iris to pass judgment by handing Dosto over. And Dosto, meanwhile, he's telling Halen he's sorry. Like, do you think on a scale of sorry, I accidentally turned off that song you keep playing that I hate to actual bona fide remorse, where do you think his sorry rates?
I think he is exactly as sorry as he needs to be to convince Halen.
Right. Okay. So not necessarily the depth.
And I think he's twigged that Halen is. I think he's twigged that Halen is a soldier and that Halen has done things in his past that he wouldn't be particularly proud of.
Okay.
Like I'm not saying he came across.
Yeah. But no, he's definitely trying to
twigged on who Halen is.
He's working on his empathy there, yeah.
Yeah.
Says he's ashamed, which might be true. Says he's trying to rationalize it, but he knows it's wrong. Says he wants to spend the rest of his life trying to make it right. Like, okay,
yeah,
I don't know.
Bullshit.
Yeah. He's basically saying, like, he has to live with this evil. That's punishment enough. And of course, good guys, Halen and Iris, they won't hand him over, but they don't like him and they know they're outnumbered. So they call this literally in the show a trolley problem, but it feels forced. So basically the trolley problem is they can either call in the military and the 6 Sabarans will be killed, or they hand over the 1. But I mean, honestly, do they really want to call in the military knowing that Aleph is coming along? Like, is that a genuine option for Halen, the deserter?
Yeah, so it's like you say, it's not really a trolley problem.
No, they can't. They basically can't call
Yeah.
ISA, QTA, or the military. They're trying to avoid these three because it turns out they're all basically the same thing, the same entity. It's all Aleph. So now we have Halen and Iris fighting as the proxies to the two groups they talk to, which reminds me of a infamous episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Great Divide. But Halen says, yeah, he gets doing the wrong thing out of desperation, as you say. He kind of like seems Dosto picked up on Halen maybe having some guilt in his past. So I wonder if do you think he's feeling guilty about deserting? Because he didn't have a choice there. His brain was not in control.
No, I mean, like, clearly the military, there's no kind of intergalactic Geneva Convention. So clearly the military in this universe does some very morally questionable things.
Yeah.
And presumably Halen is a part of that, even if he never did anything directly himself.
Yeah. Yeah, Iris says, though, whatever it was that he's ashamed of, she knows him and it wasn't cowardice. And she says that Dosto deserves the punishment of the Sabarans, but she can't stomach being a part of the execution. So meanwhile, while they're arguing, the Sabarans are just pulling ships of parts of the beacon apart, like just we've got a blowtorch going, just breaking down the beacon. And Halen and Iris are like, stop, please. And the pirates are like, nah, don't worry about it. We'll just help ourselves for a few days. Just like, I don't know, half your beacon or however much to build a freaking ship, which, to be fair, Halen was also trying to do.
Where did they get the
and then you can have your ruined beacon all to yourselves. I mean, I guess they had it on because they must have used the blowtorch to help construct their flotilla. So I guess it would make sense they would have it on there. Yeah. Or maybe that was they just found it on the beacon.
Yeah.
So they say, in 3 days, we'll take his head and be gone. Don't make us take yours too. So Iris goes screaming into her pillow, venting her frustration to Stripeface. And Stripeface says they're grateful that they were helped. And funny way of showing it, though. As she said, worst house guest ever. And she says, in all Sabaran myths, none have ever sung of a great cosmic mist. So I wonder if the Sabarans also have myths about the artifacts like the column does.
Yeah, that would fit.
Yeah, I'm wondering. But when Stripeface hears of the Pocket Universe, she wants to go back looking for Lino. I guess they were going to go looking anyway. That's why they're stripping the beacon to build a ship. And she explains, nobody understands the Sabaran bond. It's an entire people, one family, and points out family's important to you. And we find out that Iris only has that one photo left of her grandmother that we've seen. So, yeah, she really brought all her stuff. And I'm glad she has grandma's photo.
Yeah.
And then they say, well, we'll show you what it means to be Sabaran. And it's dinner party time with wine.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They come in, they rip your beacon up, they eat all your food, they drink all your booze.
At least they cook, though.
At least they cook. Probably ate the last of Iris's sourdough.
Yeah, they better not have eaten the starter. I'm sure she hid that away. But yeah, Silver Forehead says, it's not as good as home. There's something about the can-do on Tourbillon.
Yeah, just words.
You would have loved Vizenti's kabas, which must be based on kebabs, but anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, just word salad. Sci-fi, mumbo jumbo. Now, I thought, by the way, that it was the wine that knocked them out at first, but it was the singing.
Yeah,
right?
No, it was the singing.
In which case I question, doesn't Dosto know the singing? He's from there.
But I mean, they do say he isn't Sabaran, so maybe that.
Yeah, but I think because he has a tattoo, and then they say that he was a mole. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I mean,
maybe he wasn't born there. Maybe.
And also, I get it. The way I kind of read this is because of all the speaking in unison stuff. I read this as maybe they are slightly telepathic somehow, because they seem to be using the singing to project emotions onto Halen and Iris.
Yeah, there's something a little magic going on there.
Yeah,
because you can't just There's not a sound wave that knocks someone out that we've discovered yet.
Yeah.
But I think that's a cool world building detail. I like the singing. You?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
You're not buying their album?
Well, I like it if they like explain what's going on next episode. But like,
Okay.
yeah.
No, I just like the music itself was nice. It was.
It was.
Yeah.
It
Well,
was.
But yeah, I thought it was definitely. It was suspicious the moment that they were like, bring Dosto in. Like, they're like, how can we have peace if we do not break bread together? Wink. Yeah, and when Halen asks Harmony to get Dosto, did you see that Iris looks at Harmony and gives her like a little head shake? But I guess Harmony does it.
Yeah. Well, remember, Harmony is imprinted on Halen, not
right? Exactly.
Iris, so, yeah.
But Iris was like, no, this is not a good idea.
Yeah.
And then we get the whole story about how Lino's mother, was on this crew with one of them, and they worked on it for 7 years, and she'd sneak off to see her son. And she worked on the reactor level until her hair fell out, and he promised he'd look out for little Lino and saved him from the soldiers, only to have Dosto throw him from the ship. And Dosto just says, we all lost people. And they all seem remarkably cool. Like, I have to give them credit for keeping their cool when he responds to the story with, like, we've all lost people. Like, let's sing a song of sorrow. And I don't know, Luke. So I don't know if you're getting the CD, but I know a lot of people who would love a song that just knocks them out like that.
Yeah. Also, really good piece of acting from Stephen James and Ellen Wong. Really good piece of acting like to react to.
Yeah,
presumably
they start
they're not
crying.
singing that song like live. Presumably that's ADR or. But yeah,
maybe they were playing it while they were. But it was because at first you think that they're just overcome with emotion, and then you're like, oh wait, no, they're clutching their heads. Something weird's going on, and then they pass out. And then there's a wake up song, and they're like making sounds like wild animals, but there aren't animals on Sabara, right? How do they know what that sounds like without computers?
Yeah.
I don't know. I have questions. They're all lying. No, I just. But Halen and Iris, they are tied up and dangling in the gravity well. But where's Dosto? Do you think he's already dead?
Yeah, I think they've already taken his head at that point, to be honest.
I don't know. Do you think? Do you fear for Halen and Iris?
Well, you probably should, but given that we're 2 episodes from the end of the season and one of them is the main character, I think they've got pretty decent plot armor. So
I figure that the Sabarans just want them out of the way so they can do what they want.
Yeah, to dismantle the beacon.
Yeah, just like they're not going to kill them, but they'll just leave them in a stripped down beacon with a headless body.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to the final episode of this batch is Luan Casca. So that seems to be Irish for Easter Monday, but why that name? Why do you think they would name it Easter Monday and why in Irish?
No, I was trying to think of something. I was trying to think of something clever, but no, I got nothing.
I have to give the credit to the 3 hosts in a Beacon podcast. I listened to their episode this week, and one of them said maybe something about resurrection. So I don't know.
It seems a bit of a stretch, but maybe.
I do not know. There's nothing in the script with this name. Maybe, I wonder if it's like a quote from something literary, because previously there were things that were quotes from Shakespeare and things like that. So if anyone at home happens to know, please put us out of our curiosity and let us know. But anyway, this episode was written by Michaela Gingrey and Nate O'Mahony. And Gingrey, this is her only credit on IMDb. And O'Mahony has written a couple shorts and was working as a writing assistant on Homelander and other shows and a production assistant on many more before that. And it was directed by Lewin Webb, who's a producer on The Expanse and other shows and films. So we got the previously on reminder, which gives us a few helpful tidbits of information. First of all, reminding us that QTA partnered with ISA to develop the first dark matter detection system, aka the beacons, and reminding us that, so yeah, this is just kind of solidifying that they've always been working along, basically. And Aster's dad said what happened would follow them for the rest of their lives, and her mother gave her that necklace with the pendant in the shape of a silicate crystal. Coley called Aster street trash from Menelaus because Coley was a bitch, and Aster's mother managed to get her out when their colony collapsed, but never followed. Do you think it's possible Aster's mother is still out there somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, it's not likely, but it's possible.
I just wonder if, they draw attention to it, just the way she said, she got me out. She was supposed to follow, but never did.
Yeah.
It could just be, I could be overthinking it, but this is a show that asks that of you.
It kind of does invite you to overthink stuff. So.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
This episode takes place in the past and on another beacon. So we've got a teenage Aster, played by Hannah Melissa Scott, on Beacon 90, with a keeper named Jocko, played by John Kapelos. And Aster shows up apparently a month early for training, kind of openly willing Beacon 49 keeper to die so she can take her spot. Okay. Aster's definitely lying, though, about at least some of this, but she does seem to know the beacon well, and she impresses the keeper. What did you think of Teen Aster?
I thought she gave on the whole a really good performance. I do have a couple of quibbles. Like, I know we're supposed to. I know they want a shorthand to let the audience know that this is Aster, but would she really be wearing her hair the same like for the past 20 years?
She's a practical woman.
Yeah, and also, I found it slightly took me out of the episode, and I do admit I am really finicky about stuff like this. I am really overly drawn to stuff like this, but her accent, she kept trying to do like the Lena Headey voice, and she sort of drifted in and out of it.
Right.
Throughout the whole episode, which I did find a little bit distracting.
So right before I saw the episode, I happened to see a tweet from Lena Headey where they said that, the actress did great mimicking Lena Headey's as Aster's, like mannerisms, way of saying things, a way of positioning, things like that. But that the accent was distracting because she was trying so hard. She was speaking quietly the whole time.
Yeah, and I freely admit I'm overly bothered by stuff like this. I am a little bit anal about accents.
No, it was something that I thought of, especially because I saw the tweet right before. But overall, Lena Headey stands absolutely right. She gets the physical mannerisms of a teenage Aster down very, very well. Yeah, no, you believe it, definitely. Yeah. I do notice she shows her name right away, and she obviously knows Jocko's name. So I guess that rule that you can't exchange names isn't in place yet. I always wonder, whenever there's a rule like that, I'm always like, what happened that made them add that rule?
Yeah, because clearly they've rewritten the rule books because the rule about intimate relationships wasn't there when Aster's parents.
Well, they did say in that episode that they only allowed it for infertile couples.
Yeah, but there wasn't a rule against relationships.
Right. But they had rules adjacent to that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me wonder what has changed over time. But Aster's charm has not changed, and it's on full display with a round of old fashions in the cards after she disarms Jocko's dad mode.
Okay, I've got to ask, because I don't know, and I'm curious. Do you know what's in an old fashioned?
I'm going to tell you because I'm going to look it up. It's not a drink that I've tried it. But it's not one that I personally gravitate to. It's bourbon, rye. Oh, yeah. So bourbon, rye, or blended whiskey. Yeah, so bourbon, because it's a Kentucky drink. And simple syrup, water, bitters, ice, and you can garnish it with an orange slice or a maraschino cherry. It's a bit, it's basically like sweetened bourbon. So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to Yeah.
It's not going to be your next drink order.
No, not gonna. Don't like bourbon. Don't like whiskey.
But it shows you who Aster is already.
It really does.
I guess she's supposed to be a teenager here.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Aster shares that she doesn't know what became of her dad. We do know that he was arrested for his activities on the Beacon. We learned that last season. I'm wondering if this is a thread that they're going to close in the next 2 episodes since they brought him up.
I'd very much like it if they did. I loved Aster's parents. I want to know more about Aster's parents.
Yeah, I agree. We also learned that Jocko has sidelined his AI, Ollie, who, by the way, all the AI except for the main ones go uncredited in this show. And I'm like, sus.
Yeah. Also, I love in the episode, later on in the episode, where they're trying to figure something out and Ollie's going, well, if you'd given me more permissions, I could be of more help.
Exactly. So we find out Jocko prefers to do most of the work himself, he says. And I'm guessing this is at least partly because of his little experiments. But it reminds me of what Harmony said in the last episode about humans rejecting them. And it's also interesting. This is also something Solomon would do. He would lock Bart out so he could do his experiments.
Maybe I'm overthinking this, but Ollie seemed to have less of a personality than Zhang or Bart. So I do wonder, if the AI, basically, if AI are like children, the more you interact with them, the more
they develop,
the more you help their character development.
Yeah, she does say that it's very frustrating. I have so much more to offer, so she's feeling frustrated. That is an emotion, even despite the minimal interaction.
Yeah.
And like you said, there was the sass later, too.
Yeah, I do just love the passive-aggressive, well, if you give me more permissions, I could be more helpful.
Yeah, it's true. True story, Ollie.
Yeah.
If you were a Beacon AI, who would you rather was your keeper between Jocko, Iris, or any of the Beacon keepers we met last season, which includes Dr. Ree Avalon, Aster's family, or Sophie? I'm not even going to ask about Solomon.
I think Sophie. I think the lady making serapes. She seemed really cool, and she knows how to use a loom, and she'd look after me if I was sick. So
and she does seem like the best. Just don't kill anyone in front of her, and you should be good.
Yeah, we should be good. I mean,
although
Iris seems pretty cool as well, to be honest.
Yeah. Although you get free concerts all the time.
Yeah.
Ree Avalon seemed cool too, and Aster's family, you got Aster with the package.
Yeah, and you can play hide and seek.
Yeah, maybe I would go for that one, like a lively Beacon. But as Jocko tells Aster, it's unhealthy to become emotionally reliant. They can become very addictive. It's a crutch, and she's got to be thinking about Harmony at this point because I guess she bonded with Harmony before this, I'm guessing, because it was right after she was separated from her mom. So I'm guessing she left Harmony behind somewhere, or she's not using her fully, or...
Yeah, well, I mean, given how the episode played out, she may not have wanted to get Harmony in trouble, given what she was sent there to do.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I thought the line about them being an emotional crutch and you becoming dependent on them, as somebody who's had an ALEXA for the past 6 months. Yeah, I've become pretty dependent on the calendar and the alarms on that. Yeah. And that's the most basic form of AI you could get. So if I had something like Bart or Zhang, I think you become dependent on it really quickly.
Yeah, sometimes I ask her for the time, even though I have a clock right in front of me. We learn also that there was once an AI named Roland from Beacon 2 who classified their Beacon Keeper as a biohazard and tried to kill them. And I have to ask, did Bart know about this?
Yeah. I don't think they tried to kill them. I think they succeeded.
No, I thought that they disarmed.
No, because they managed to kill the Beacon Keeper, so they put in a kill switch to disarm the AI. To stop that.
I thought that they tried to, and but in any case, it was the original murderous AI bot.
Yeah.
And we also learned Jocko fell into the beacon keeper life. So don't tell Iris he didn't see it as a calling. So he was helping and then eventually replacing a friend who was apparently getting belligerent with ISA. So it sounds like they were on the beacon together for a while. Is there anything weird about this story to you?
Yeah, I'm not sure that story entirely tracked, particularly given what we find out later on in the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would make sense from the beacon keeper's point of view to not give too much away about his background, so he probably has this story ready-made if somebody were to ask.
Yeah.
Given what he's doing. So this probably was somebody he knew somewhere previously, but he's just sort of appropriated that story and put it on the beacon, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I wonder if I'm just like now looking too much for for suspiciousness everywhere. But
again, like the way the show is structured, it invites you to do that. Like, I think that's a good sign that the show is working. It's having the proper effect.
Well, we certainly know that Astor's lying because she was, and this was one thing that the young actress does well, the Lena Headey did well, is, just the casually lying and just being very good liar, just a very convincing liar. And so he asks her why she wants to do this, a young girl with her life ahead of her, and she says security. And I think this is a lie, but I think that the reason why her lies work is because there's always a fine line of truth at the bottom of them, like that she really did come from this background where her home was destroyed and she probably does want some security. And I'm sure the beacon must feel like home, though she doesn't remember why.
Yeah, I mean, the best lies have always got a little bit of truth in them.
Exactly. And then she says after Menelaus, she was in Bursa, which gets wide eyes from Jocko. And it turns out that he was the savior of Bursa. So he was defying orders and lifted refugees out, including Astor. And she says that this is why she's here. So I guess he used to be in the military?
Yeah, or the military,
or he was just like some bounty hunter or something.
Or like some branch of ISA, maybe. I don't think it's made particularly clear. Like, right. I've got to say, if I were in this universe, I'd be in the column. Like, clearly this whole colonization process is going seriously wrong.
No, the column is getting more and more sympathetic.
Yeah, just like stop, slow down. Like, clearly you're not doing whatever you're doing. You're not doing
develop
this
the technology to grow food.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, I guess he's not in the military because then he says Scads sabotaged the evacuation. So Scads, I guess, are a type of soldier.
Yeah. I mean, the only context in which I've heard Scad is to mean like slang for lots of something. There were Scads.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Maybe there are swarms of them, so they're Scads. Yeah. But then he flew through a dogfight and hot-wired or talked someone through hot-wiring an abandoned commercial hauler, the Cloudburst, and conducted the largest airlift since a past event on a place called Edemion. And Astor was one of the ones that he saved. So that creates an interesting dynamic for everything that follows after that, because she's come here, it seems, we find later, to... Well, I don't know why she's come here. Like, did she actually want to become a beacon keeper so that she could help help the ships go through? Or like, was that part of their plan? Or was she just here waiting for a situation like the one that arises where she has to...
I think it was more specific than that. I think whoever Astor is working for at this point, I think they kind of anticipated that there was going to be this traffic jam with the military ship and the food convoy, and they wanted somebody on the beacon to make sure that the food convoy got wherever it was going.
Right. Could be. Because, I mean, she is there a month early, but this is something that took some time to set up because she had to learn the whole beacon thing and, But Astor, she finds the locked airlock, and Jocko says he's just using it for overflow storage. Nothing to look at here. And stop quoting regulations at me, Missy. But they're interrupted by an alert that the two ships are on a collision course, which is a rare occurrence, but they have to decide which one gets priority. One is a food transport, X-12, for distant colonies in the Zeta Quadrant. The other is UGMC Agrippa, and the MC is supposed to get priority in FTL lanes, but the food transport has already been rerouted once because of that, and this would further delay their shipment for months, which Aster fears would lead to more deaths of people like her. And she says the military can wait, since they're probably just going to kill more innocent people stealing food to survive. So, this is more... Well, it's not even... No, this is not a trolley problem either. It's just a... morality issue. Do you follow orders?
It's just a traffic management problem.
It's a traffic management problem. True. So it's interesting. The ship's called Agrippa because Agrippa was a Roman emperor who was known for military conquests, particularly he fought Mark Antony and Cleopatra.
It's a name that crops up a lot in science fiction. And it's a name that crops up a lot as a name of a warship as well.
Right. He's a conqueror.
I can think of at least 3 or 4 other examples of a ship called Agrippa for that reason.
In this case, they did name the ship that on purpose. It's also interesting, since Jocko made a big deal about running everything himself and not depending on his AI, it really emphasizes that this is his choice to make, and he was not going to make necessarily the moral one, although it becomes more complicated when we learn more about his situation.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, he makes an Odyssey comparison about piloting tight spaces, and then but Odysseus made it, but his entire crew died. So is this story signifying his willingness to sacrifice others? I mean...
I hadn't thought about it, but yes. Yeah.
It seems like he's changed since he was a savior of Berza. I mean, I guess people tend to get more conservative with age, and he's been doing this so long, maybe he doesn't question it. And of course, as we said, there's more complications, but...
I don't think it's... I don't think it's that. I think it's more that when he has the opportunity to do the right thing without bad consequences happening to himself, he will do it. But he's not prepared to, and most people aren't. He's not prepared to take the risk of, I might come, if it's a choice between doing the right thing and coming to personal harm, I'm going to take the course of least resistance. But with the thing at Berza, he could do the right thing, not risk-free, but at less risk to himself than solving the issue with the ships, right, or doing the right thing about what we find out later.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess it does get more complicated as the episode goes on, but this is maybe, actually I should say this is my first episode, first in the rankings of these 3, because it does have some of the more complicated moral quandaries, which I like.
And I thought of it as it's almost like a 3-act play. It's very, very self-contained. You could watch that episode and know nothing about anything else that's happened in the series and find that episode completely satisfying.
Right. And that's been the case with this show so far with the, flashback episodes. Except this one ends in a cliffhanger. But anyway, so Aster pulls a gun, and I love that they list what starvation looks like, because that's not something people usually think about. But she talks about how cracked skin, bloated stomach, lesions, that it's just adds to, it's not just that you're hungry. It's the...
Yeah, I don't do it anymore, but I used to do a couple of lectures on food security. And that was my opening sort of 10 minutes was, this is what starvation is, this is what it looks like, this is what it does to the human body. So that was accurate. That was that is completely accurate.
Jocko says now the military will dispatch a team to investigate. Not great news for someone who's locked up a soldier to experiment on. And he says they'll find you. Aleph has a long memory. I'm guessing this whole situation ends with her working for Aleph. So even Aster goes from being a revolutionary to working for the man.
Yeah, well, Aleph tends to get what he wants in the end.
Yeah. And Aster shares a story of when soldiers came to her hovel with her mom, ransacking and looting, and how she saw them drag her mom into her room or pantry, something. So she asks, what more can the soldiers do to me? And Jocko says there's a lot more groups out there taking a stand. Which one are you a part of? We don't have a name, just some mates. So I'm getting the feeling that Aster co-founded the column, which would explain Kier's behavior toward her. What do you think? But I'm wondering if all these different groups, if they might have coalesced into the column, or if there's still different revolutionary groups out there.
I don't think Asta founded the column, because when she's talking to Kier, it's not like, I don't get the impression that she is fully down with the ideology of the column.
No,
maybe that came later.
Yeah, exactly. But just because you can found something and then it gets away from you, you know?
Yeah, that's entirely possible. Although, like, it struck me that the column has like a very well defined ideology, almost to the point of it being religious faith. And I think it would be quite difficult to get to that point in maybe.
But that was how Kier interpreted it. Is that how everyone does? Because it didn't seem like Saldana and Finch felt exactly the same way.
Yeah, it's possible. I guess it's possible.
She says, we know we can't win, but that doesn't mean we have to take it either. And Jocko respects her balls, which gives him hope, which gives me hope in him. The fact that, because this whole time, you know, he's like, I know I've been doing some questionable things, but like, it gives me hope to see your young vigor. But then he also says, I really hope that your generation can change something, but you won't. It's a lost cause. Do you believe that's true in general?
Yes, that's a big question to ask.
I hope it's not. I'll just say that. I hope it's not true. I mean, things do get better over centuries, decades. Sometimes we backslide.
I think human nature is what it is. I don't think it changes very much.
Yeah.
Over time, and one of the things, as I sort of open with my first lecture, because obviously I teach military history, is that while other human beings have existed as collectives, those collectives have fought one another. And like some of the earliest literature is military history. So if you're looking at Thucydides or Sun Tzu, you're going back thousands of years. So I'm not particularly optimistic about human nature, but that being said, things do get better very, very slowly and incrementally.
Right. Yeah, I was actually called a cynic this morning. I've gotten more cynical as I've gotten older, and maybe just in recent years, but like Jocko. But
I didn't know young Elysia, but the last thing you strike me as is cynical.
It depends. It depends on the day. It does sometimes feel like that you see people doing the same things over and over again and not learning the lessons or not applying the learnings. But anyway, this is a dark show, dark thoughts.
I'm going to say this episode in particular does really invite you to like ask some really dark questions.
Yeah, it's going to be me rocking back and forth in the corner with a glass of wine later. No, I'm just kidding. I'm fine. But so Aster locks up Jocko and goes to investigate the airlock situation, where she finds a soldier tied up with tubes going into his neck and arm. Super gross. Very like that squishy tech that they use.
Yeah.
But he's conscious and can talk, which is the worst part for the prisoner, because he's been like awake through all this for how long?
Yeah, and we don't find out exactly how long.
He doesn't know.
You get the sense he's been there a long time.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to know. I mean, I think at this point, if Jocko had just told her everything, he might have saved them all some trouble.
Yeah, but then the episode would have ended 20 minutes early.
It does escalate quite
Again,
a lot.
it's your old thing of clear communication.
Yes, exactly. Jocko seems to agree. Like when he gives his whole diatribe about this guy's even worse than the soldiers who dragged Aster's mother into the closet. It seems like Jocko seems to agree after all that soldiers are up to no good after Aster saying earlier that they're just going to go kill people who steal food because they're hungry.
Yeah.
I think he was just saying all that stuff earlier to prevent an investigation from the military.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jocko's he's the classic, I was just following orders.
Right.
Defense. He's not doing these things because he is particularly cruel or a sadist, and he doesn't have any curiosity about what he's doing. Now that doesn't excuse it. Some of the worst things in history have been done on the excuse of I was just following orders, but
right.
That's how Jocko lives with what he's doing,
right.
And that's how a lot of people have justified a lot of things,
right?
Throughout history.
Yeah. So Aster locks herself in with the prisoner, and we find out his name is Saren, played by Milton Barnes, and she disables Ollie's AI access, and if Ollie tries to override, the airlock will open and Aster and Saren will both be sucked out. But Ollie notified QTA about what's going on because she had to, and Jocko isn't happy about this. So Saren says he stopped here to make repairs to a damaged ship, and this happened to him. So, okay, here's my understanding of what all went down, and add or correct as you see fit. It sounds like Aleph is having the Beacon Keepers perform experiments, like kidnap soldiers and perform experiments on them so that he can develop these implants. But the military, I guess the military must be in on it as well.
Yeah, and I got the impression that Saren initially volunteered and now wished that he hadn't.
But I believe Saren when he said that he was just knocked out and woke up like this.
But he says later on in the episode, I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, but when he joined the military.
Oh, okay. I thought that was. Oh, okay. I misunderstood. I misunderstood that bit then.
Aster, he wants to get out of these tubes, of course, and Aster's afraid if she yanks out the tubes, it will hurt him, but it doesn't when she ultimately does. And Saren is also making very clear that he wants to hurt Jocko. That's his number one priority at the moment. Aster calls one of her buddies, Darlene, played by Diane Johnstone, who's flying dark to swoop in and extract Aster from, her little rescue the food transport situation. But the UGMC Douglastown is en route. It's a Class 2 gunship coming to respond to Ollie's call. And Jocko says that Saren is his patient, and he's a killing machine shaped by implants, false memories. Obviously, this is kind of setting us up to think about Halen, who must have gone through similar. And this guy's quote unquote fed a steady diet of misinformation to rewire his brain, a reverse Clockwork Orange, because Clockwork Orange is where you see the eyes pinned open and they have to watch things to become less violent. And in this case, they're trying to make them more violent.
Yeah. And they're feeding them excess hormones and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's implants. And Jocko believes Aleph thinks that these soldiers are the key to winning, I guess, because this brainwashing shows that they can rewire human brains, so that Aleph, the only way to kill the rebellion, Aleph thinks, is to brainwash the survivors.
Yeah, or just create a load of super soldiers that can wipe everybody out.
But then they said something like that you you can just wipe everyone out, but that doesn't win the war. The only way to win the war is by doing this, something like that.
Yeah. I'm not sure I'll ever thought this all the way through.
Well, but I think it's true because, like I said before, if you just keep killing people, well, you're either just like have to kill all of them, or the people left are going to fight back.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not sure Aleph has got any particular compunction about just killing him.
But if he can, but if he's still like, you know, he's a hero of his own story, like every villain. He thinks if you can brainwash someone, then he can just tell them how to think and everything, you know, they'll all agree with him.
Yeah.
So Jocko confirms the beacons really are Aleph's toys, not the QTAs, and that he also controls the military, and says her parents must have been part of it if they were scientists. Do you think that's true? That Aster's parents were involved in this in some way?
They could be. I mean, they were involved in it, and to the extent that they were beacon keepers, they were on the beacon. Yeah. So there is that. And I mean, there's a difference between being involved and being like knowingly involved.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think either of them would have like knowingly done anything like as immoral as this.
Right. Jocko says though that he's been secretly sabotaging the QTA's work, actually, purposefully not following instructions properly, undoing things he did, lying about the results. He says, like, Penelope at a loom in the night, which is another, a lot of classical references. But yeah. Aster calls him cruel, and he says he did what he had to do. But honestly, if he's slowing the program, that's bigger than Aster's stunt with the supply ship. But how many other beacon keepers are doing the same work? So how much does his sabotaging, actually have an effect?
Yeah, I mean, certainly not all the beacon keepers are doing this because they wouldn't all have the skill set to be able to do it. I don't think. So it's probably a few beacon keepers, so I guess it would actually have some kind of measurable impact.
But one measurable impact we find out about is that because he's been sabotaging the results are really wonky, and he was told to terminate the experiment, as in kill Saren, and he couldn't do it. So it's kind of mercy that Saren's still alive right now, but I guess he just didn't know what to do.
Yeah. But also, do we mean he couldn't do it morally, or he couldn't do it?
I think he couldn't do it morally. I think it would have been easy for him to physically do it because he had him strapped down.
Just turn off the air in the airlock.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Saren's like, I'm a good guy. I just want to kill this guy who's been torturing me and just go, like, super innocent like. And he tells her this whole sob story we found out later is false about joining the military because he was a lowly engineer digging ditches who got hurt, and this was his way out of the hospital. And the audience first knows that Saren's definitely lying when he fakes being in pain so that Aster will pull out the tubes. And then we cut to Jocko sitting in his room, innocently looking around like, what the fuck's going on? But now Aster tells Saren she's not going to let him kill Jocko after all, but she'll take him away on the ship with her. And Saren super heals. He gets real threatening and tells her the truth. He's in the military because he likes power and violence. He was early strike force, ESF, the kind of people who did the looting Aster talked about earlier, the best of the worst of the best. But he doesn't make any attempt to hurt Aster yet. And coincidentally, what was his story? He's also from Menelaus, or he just crashed there?
He just crashed there, I think.
Okay. And he's blaming mob rule for the final collapse that a transport went down. But I'm wondering, how did a mob make a transport go down?
I'm guessing the transport was trying to take off. Too many people were trying to get on board. And it sort of crashed at the end of a runway kind of thing.
But it actually makes sense if details in this story don't make sense, because he says he crashed into Manjaro 9, and she responds, there is no Manjaro 9, look it up. So this seems to be an implanted memory. So I guess he wasn't really on Menelaus after all, or maybe he was, and who knows?
It's all going a bit Total Recall.
Yeah. Oh, I love Total Recall, actually. And she's like, my mother had a name, because they're arguing. He's like, who cares about your mother? And then he's like, I'm sorry, that was mean. But she's like, my mother had a name. Her name is Nisha. My dad once called her something else, which we know is Grisha. So they didn't really change it much. But yeah, so there's those lingering memories in the back of her head. And the whole standoff finally comes to a head when Aster's friend shows up, and Siren's anger takes over, and he chokes Aster until she pokes him in the eye with her pendant, which, like, you could have just poked him with your finger, but I guess we want to be reminded about the pendant. And she tells her friend Darlene to run, and they can't risk letting Siren out. And Darlene lets Jocko out instead, since he's like, just let me have him so you two can go. Siren says the QTA will turn Jocko over to the military anyway, meaning turn Jocko over to Siren. But Jocko thinks they think Siren's too deranged, and they're going to terminate him because he was literally told to do that. Do you feel sorry for either Siren or Jocko?
No.
No.
No, I don't think I do.
I feel a little bit sorry for Jocko more, I guess. But yeah. Siren I feel sorry, even though Siren wanted to be in the military so that he could like bust things. I still feel bad for him being tricked into this medical experimentation situation.
Yeah. No, I don't feel sorry for either of them.
All right. Well, so Jocko says he got cynical because he was asked to do things like this, but he wants to make amends and sacrifice himself and get the other two out. And Aster wants him to go with Darlene, and QTA wants Aster to release her prisoners and turn herself in, and the episode ends. So which cliffhanger do you think we'll pick up with next time? This one or the previous episode?
I'm going to say the previous episode.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, like I just have a sense that they're going to want to leave us on the episode 6 cliff for just a little bit longer.
Or maybe
I think this might have something to do with like the way everything finally plays out.
Maybe they I mean, I don't know if they would end the last episode on a flashback, you know? Maybe they won't even go back to this on screen, but just kind of like tell us what happened next. Just allude to it.
Or maybe they do like 2 different timelines in the same episode. So we've got a present day timeline and a past timeline.
Yeah, okay. You're saying because so far I guess that's not true. They've woven together 2 different timelines in one episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. They don't have teenage Aster in IMDb for other episode. They actually have Lena Headey in for the finale. I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, IMDb take whatever's there with a grain of salt because random people put that in. Okay, but we won't leave you listeners on a cliffhanger. We'll be right back with a community feedback and our own final thoughts after a quick break.
The Quantum Tunneler has new messages.
Okay, so I again divided up the feedback by person rather than by episode. So we got Brian 8063 said after episode 6 that he would rank the episodes 6 first, then 4, then 5. What did you said 4, 6, 5?
Yeah, 4, 6, 5. Okay.
He said, Hannah Scott did a good job as young Aster. It is odd to have the 2 cliffhangers going at the same time. Yeah, for sure. So Abby said after, in response to our last podcast, okay, if you say there are inspirations from the book, I believe you and will let you find them. Smiley face. I'm totally smarting over the news of there being no cricket in the show, while I understand the lack from production budgetary reasons. That's why I gave up finding parallels. Yeah. Well, in this chunk of episodes, like I said, I did not bring up the book. There was, but it's doing its own thing now.
Yeah.
After episode 4, she said, got really creepy. What in the blob was that? And why is Iris touching it? And why does Halen think that shooting it would do any good? AI rivalry, is it? That other one, Dev, is jealous of Harmony for having not one but 2 imprints. Seems malevolent. So they scuttled the ship and stabilized the temp, but the alien blob is still there. The snowing in the beacon gave me GDT Crimson Peak vibes. Goth indeed. Yeah. Yeah, it was fun vibes. I like the goth vibes this season.
Yeah, but why are they not wearing hats?
Yeah, why no hats? After episode 5, Abby said, I really didn't see what they were trying to do with the show anymore. No budget for cricket, but plenty for space pirates, which I pointed out that it's much cheaper. The costumes are super cheap for space pirates. Dev is creepy, all right, but those new faces are creepier than a needy AI. So they are stripping the beacon for parts to make a ship to sail away. Who knows where? Who knows why? Are they a sort of cult group like the ones in Foundation? Mass hypnosis? No, I think, this is their culture. Like, this is how they get by just being a super solid unit.
Yeah.
Now Halen and Iris seem to be prisoners. Classic bite the hand that feeds you. Do you still like them, Iris? She could withstand Dev's manipulation, but not the creepy song. Are these punks a stand-in for the Riff, which is an alien species from the book? Not aliens, just a different culture. I think that actually the Silicate is a stand-in for the Riff. I think that that's the outside entity that's asking the main characters to think about their allegiances and the state of the universe. But anyway. She says, not aliens, just a different culture. Being a smaller trolley problem, maybe we didn't need that said out loud, by the way. Trust your audience more, yeah. They never say the words trolley problem in the book. Well, after episode 6, another flashback episode. World is built with hammers. Hope all will somehow come together, but not sure. Not sure about the direction they are going, if there is one. Maybe it's just the beacon directing and misdirecting how we perceive a show and how much plot, if any, we need. Next episode, maybe they finish the Aster memory and in the last resolve the space pirate crisis, but I could be wrong. One theory is that the leftover Rocky in Harlan's pocket may be responsible for the whole flashback thing as a way of reminding him of Aster. I think it was the portal, but Rocky has that effect, but I think the portal was bigger. Reminding him of Aster the Good Fight and that he has implants and isn't supposed to be a helpless himbo. Everyone moaning about the lack of Aster will be satisfied, maybe. Strong suspicion that they only miss Lena Headey. The young actress got it right, though. She is Aster, all the way down to the little mannerisms. Great work. We get more insight on the world, the military, ISA, QTA, interwoven codependency and conflicts. That guy being an enhanced one like Halen gives perspective on the Aster and Halen relationship. Yeah, so apparently Glematara said in the interview that I read that Lena Headey had, when in one of the second episode or something of the first season, Halen pretends to attack her on camera to trick the people who have broken into the beacon. And Lena Headey just kind of fought back extra strong. And Glematara noticed that and thought, why did she do that? Like, when she should be going along with, there's like a trauma response there. So he kind of thought about this episode as how to show why she might be traumatized by the idea of someone like Halen.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Abby says, I don't really have a standout performance for the episodes. They are all built up from to okay, let's see, to now what. Still no idea where the season goes, but we'll find out by the last episode, hopefully, in terms of interpersonal relationships, real and AI, isolation, and the struggle to survive. Maybe you don't need a clear plot. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe you don't.
Lena Headey Stan says, I feel like they completely lost its original plot. How will they be able to wrap up all of these storylines in only 2 remaining episodes? Plot lines like the Wreckers have been completely pointless and abandoned then. I mean, I guess the Wreckers, I have to say, were directly from the book. So that was more pulling directly from the book. And I guess they're just showing there's a lot of different cultures in this world. But yeah, I did wonder if, where was his face from the first season? The only wrecker to walk away, the young guy. Anyway, I thought they might bring him back.
Yeah, and like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I share the concern about how are you going to wrap this up in a way that is satisfying in 2 episodes.
Yeah.
In 2 episodes.
Yeah, I'm in wait and see mode, but I see where the concern comes from. So Lena Headey Stan continues, now that they brought us back to teenage Aster, I have hope that they will bring her back for the finale. I mean, on IMDb, but I don't know if that's like a flashback or I don't know. But to be honest, I've stopped guessing. This new season felt a bit disappointing to me. That AI quarrel also seems like another filler side plot. Yeah, I wonder if I have to feel like the Dev thing is going to tie back into the bigger Aleph situation.
Yeah, like this has got to be going somewhere. I'm not quite sure where, but it's going somewhere.
But on the positive side, her royal bubbliness said after episode 5, better than the first season for sure. Although I don't know how I feel about the recent episode with the new tribe or what they add to the story. But looking forward to your podcast to make more sense of it. Sub-Zero said after episode 3, I really enjoyed episode 3. It was so cool to get another beacon keeper on the show, someone that knows what they're doing. I can just imagine her horror at seeing what Halen had done to the beacon, and I'm not sure about his methodology there. He does. How does bashing a screen in help free your AI? She seemed genuinely interested in helping him, which must feel very refreshing for him to experience. I'm surprised at how long they're keeping Aster off the show. Do we think she's on that vessel that docked? I mean, we know now, of course not. I don't trust that B-174 dude. See? I think he's been catfishing B-67, right? We need answers.
I love the idea. I love the idea of the beacon keepers catfishing each other.
So Sub-Zero says episode 4 was a trip, especially the end. I have no idea what's going on. I really like the addition of Iris to the show. She's a great foil to Halen. I hope she sticks around for the whole season. And yep. So B67/Iris leaves her beacon to come help B23. Then B174 leaves his beacon to come help B67 Iris. Who is managing B67 and B174?
That is a very good question.
But we found out that Beacon 23 was also empty for like a decade when Kier first showed up.
I wonder if the AI can like manage fully autonomously at least for a little while.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Sub-Zero says, what happens when ships pass through and need help? I mean, I guess the AI can handle it, but then the humans are there for backup. Hence that's how it was in the book, by the way.
I just like the idea of the ship calling up the beacon and getting like you have reached the answer phone for Beacon 173. We're not home right now, but if you leave a message after the beep.
Yeah, exactly. And Sub-Zero was commenting about it's weird that there's only one person on the beacon. It's from the book, but also I think from a mental health perspective, at least, you don't want to have people out there by themselves. After episode 5, they said, episode 5 is certainly a curveball. I appreciate we are getting a taste of cultures in this universe, but the Sabaran storyline isn't very compelling for me. Felt very Star Trek TNG, where they meet some random aliens who mess stuff up because there's apparently no such thing as security or restricted access on a starship. It's fine when you have 26 episodes per season. It's a questionable decision when you only have 8. We'll see after the next ep. Now I want horrible deaths for these space pirates, zero appreciation for those who saved their lives, not to mention a sense of entitlement, as if they are owed something. I don't know why Halen didn't just put on his soldier suit and wipe them out when they started tearing up the ship. I've come to the conclusion that Halen's just a himbo. So we've got 2 people calling Halen a himbo.
I think that's really unfair. I mean, like, Halen Stephen James, yeah, he's a handsome guy, but like, Halen's done some stuff. Halen's survived, you know?
Yeah, but I do feel like he came across as more clever and connected last season, and maybe he's reeling from the Aster death and everything. But
Yeah, the guy's been through a lot.
yeah.
Although, like, he does have a tendency to, like, you know, hit things first and think later, but that doesn't make him a himbo. Okay, maybe it did. Actually, maybe
a
it
little
does.
bit. So Zero says, I'm not sure where this season is going. It almost feels like a procedural now without an overarching storyline. We had that weird ep in Harmony's head, and now this space pirate stuff. Hopefully we'll get some more movement next episode. Yeah, I mean, I hope it all is tying together at the end, but I have a feeling it will. I'm still waiting for it. And they said, I still like Iris, though, which who wouldn't?
Yeah, it's kind of hard not to like Iris.
Yeah. After episode 6, Sub-Zero said, these people have zero concept of security protocol. Aster's friend is able to just walk onto the beacon. And if you have a dangerous super soldier locked away, maybe rig the lock so only you can open it. Hope for the best, but always plan for the worst. Saren. Aster was way too gullible. Maybe get all the info before you start ripping off wires and restraints. Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah. I thought the final scene wasn't super realistic. If Saren was as cold-blooded as he was portrayed, he would have snapped Aster's neck in one move. See, that's the thing. I don't think he was purely cold-blooded. I think he was indeed being brainwashed, but I think there were times like he lashed out and said, like, who cares about your mother? And then he'd come back and be like, no, I'm sorry about what I said about your mother. So I think he was holding himself back and wasn't exactly as far gone. Like, it seems like we see a lot in this show of people overestimating how far other people will go, which I think we also see in the real world. Like, we saw the Sabarans, like, he killed 2 of us, so he was trying to kill us all. Like, no, he killed the 2. One of them was an accident, you know. Anyway, so Sub-Zero continues, the twist was good, though. I was surprised that Jocko actually disobeyed orders and saved Saren's life, although I had been wondering why he hadn't just spaced Saren long ago. I thought the actress playing young Aster was very good. She exuded self-confidence, not all of it earned, and you can see her growing into Lena Headey's Aster. I'll drink an old-fashioned with her anytime. Yeah. I'm not crazy about how they are choosing to tell the story. Back-to-back eps ending on cliffhangers. By the end of episode 6, I don't think I've ever seen a cliffhanger in a flashback story. By the end of episode 6, I'd completely forgotten about the space pirates. I legit thought for a second the story was over. It disrupts the continuity and I think takes away from the impact of each storyline. I mean, I guess they did that a bit in the first season where they would like alternate which story they continued or like leave a cliffhanger, then do a flashback. But I think this is the first time they left the cliffhanger on the flashback. But
yeah,
I guess
like I think people are not liking the 2 flashbacks the 2 cliffhangers back to back, and I can see where people are coming from with that.
Yeah, because they're not from different storylines. Yeah, but I feel like the second one, we know this somehow ends with Aster working for Aleph. It's just the question of what happens to the others. But so Satoichi said after Ep5, Dev was creepy AF, as the kids say. New guy, nerdy AF. New tribe group, rude AF. Need thinking time before I say what direction I think they're going in. And after episode 6, not totally sure of their direction, but I loved that last step. Sadly, it feels very relevant to things going on in the world right now. So experimental soldier is the first version of Halen type soldier. Yeah, it seems like it. Interesting that Aster might have had a bad experience and then fall for one later. Yeah. Well, that concludes our feedback. Do you have any final thoughts on episodes 4 through 6, Luke?
No, I just really hope they stick the landing. I just really, really hope they stick the landing.
We have 2 episodes left, maybe ever. Their titles are Free, and the finale is called Disintegration. Do you think it could be the artifacts, like the goo portal disintegrates or something.
Yeah, I mean, they're not
Could be
giving you an
anything.
awful lot to work with those
Could be
titles.
anything. What are the storylines and questions you need resolved by the end of the season?
What I need resolving is, what is the artifact?
Mm-hmm.
What is its relationship with Halen?
Mm-hmm.
What, if anything, is it trying to tell the universe at large?
Mm-hmm.
I need some kind of resolution with Aleph in the sense that does the artifact want to speak to him? Does he want to speak to the artifact? What does
The artifact definitely wants to speak to him.
Yeah, what does the artifact want to tell him, if anything?
Telling him to listen.
Like, how will his increasing paranoia, cruelty, sociopathy play out in the end? Like, what's the end game with Aleph? And is some version of Asta's consciousness out there somewhere?
Yeah, we need that resolved. I think that must be resolved. I think, yeah, indeed, we need all the questions around the artifact resolved. We need something to happen with Aleph, some sort of closure there. And there's just some little plot details that I would like resolved, like what actually happened with Aster's parents, and I want to know what's up with Halen's military dad, stuff like that. But
yeah,
holding
there's
faith.
a lot to get through in 2 episodes.
Holding faith.
Yeah. Well,
we look forward to talking through these last 2 episodes together with you all after the season finale. If you want us to keep doing more of this podcast and producing maybe more episodes than we do now, then help us. Share this pod with a friend who you think might like it. When you leave a 5-star review, that's actually a huge help in helping more people find it. And we also want to hear what you think. So you can email us at woolshiftdustpodcast@gmail.com. And Luke, where can they find you?
So they can find me on Twitter at Luke Midip, and they can find me on Blue Sky at the same handle.
And you can find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Elysia CB. And you can also find me on the Lorehounds Discord, where we talk about Vegan 23 and a whole bunch of other shows and movies and books. And you'll find all those links in the show notes. And book club, I promise to shift episodes coming by the end of the month. It's just a massive pile of editing to-dos there. So this episode was produced by me, published by the Lorehounds. You'll also find on the Lorehounds, they're starting up their full House of the Dragon coverage. So they're recapping the first season, and there's a show guide. And also starting with the Rings of Power, there's like a show guide there's a breakdown scene by scene of the trailer, and they just released a teaser for that. You'll find me on the episodes over there talking about Doctor Who, X-Men 97 is about to come out, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Also, we just recently had an episode talking about the Bad Batch and Tales of the Empire. And speaking of Star Wars, Luke alluded to it earlier, but I've launched the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast. So that's basically, we're going through all of Star Wars, all the content in timeline order, starting at the very beginning, and so far working up in the timeline towards the Acolyte TV show, which is starting on June 4th and is set at the end of the High Republic.
And if I do say so myself, it's a very good podcast.
Thank you. I'm sure you're not biased, but thank you. No, I'm just kidding.
No, clearly not.
So this podcast joins the affiliates Rings and Rituals, which has been recapping season 1 of Rings of Power, with a special focus on the ritual and world building in Tolkien and real world. And also Radioactive Ramblings, which is now doing some background Fallout lore, as well as covering season 2 of Invincible. And Properly Howard is, I think they're wrapping up their season of Felonies and Fugazis, and they just also actually released a Dune 2 episode, which was an interesting listen. Spoiler alert, one of them didn't like it.
What?
I know.
What?
That was Anthony's response. And join us again on the Discord to discuss all of these topics and a bunch more. Luke, any final words?
No, you've sucked me dry of content, Elysia.
Yeah, we've been at it for a while. So, okay, we'll see you all in 2 weeks for the Beacon 23 Season 2 finale. And until then, we'll be listening to our Sabaran sleep jams on repeat. A new Star Wars journey begins in the place all good journeys begin. At, well, the beginning. This Star Wars Day, I'm excited to introduce the new Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast, where we will piece together the complete story of that galaxy far, far away, in timeline order, from the dawn of the Jedi through the great unknown following the sequel trilogy. This is a podcast for both Star Wars superfans and complete newbies. Listen to the short intro episode now to hear how it works and what to expect over the coming weeks as we set the stage for the new television series The Acolyte, which we will be covering with weekly breakdowns. Subscribe to the Star Wars Canon Timeline podcast wherever you listen to take part in one of the most epic and expansive stories ever told, following all the twists and turns from start to finish. May the 4th be with you all month and beyond.